sure that you make the maintenance.
That's an excellent point.
You go more.
That's an excellent point. You know, one of the things that I just remember that now that you mentioned it, it's an excellent point. Sometimes you have to say something like, I just want to make sure you always blame it on yourself. You say, I just want to make sure I want to make sure that that I communicated my message clearly. Can you repeat what I just said? Something like that. You say, you blame it on yourself. I just want to make sure I communicated my information correctly. Can you please repeat what I just said? That's helpful sometimes.
Or maybe asking about their...
One more?
Last one.
I want somebody that hasn't spoken.
Brother,
You over there?
Well, this is a long history with prophets and the people.
Okay.
The people were not listening to the message. And in Surah Al-Mulk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقَالُوا لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ أَوْ نَعْقِلُ مَا كُنَّا مِنْ أَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. So al-aqlaniyya came from listening before. So that's the importance of listening, is to the comprehension, the depth, the core issue of the message to be delivered.
Yes, thank you so much. That's an excellent point. I want to thank you all for coming here. It was a great discussion. I'm so glad everybody participated, and I hope you found this information valuable and you can take it back to your societies. And I have an article that I liked. It's called 25 Ways to Catch and Keep Volunteers. I printed 5 copies for the 5 chapters. So if you're a chapter leader, or if you're a chapter member in the chapter, if you can come up and get your article, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Zulfa, thank you so much for such an amazing presentation. I know everyone's going to walk away from this room with more leadership skills. You're going to be able to apply what you've learned today in professional settings, at work settings, in meetings, and even with voluntary and outreach groups that you've created. So there's a lot that we benefited throughout this evening. We're going to close with statements from Shakir al-Ashwal. So I'd appreciate it if you could join me on the stage. Can we please welcome him with a round of applause?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Zulfa will sit and watch as I try to apply some of the skills I learned today about appreciating people. When we sit down to plan this the program for the conference, we planned the first day for people, for everyone. But our intention is really to serve others and to direct a message to others. The Sunday program, which is usually a half day, we try to design it so that it's for us. It's something that we could do, we could engage in, so that we could take something out of it. And I think, both presentations today, focusing on the role of media, and then the presentation by Zulfa, both demonstrate that these topics were designed to engage us as community leaders and activists, to develop ourselves, to develop the organizations that we are part of, so that we could become more effective in impacting change in our communities. As a community, we've evolved, and we've come a long way. From a community that shunned education, when in 1930 or in the 30s, when Nu'man Mashrah, an immigrant from Yemen, had to actually change his clean clothes to wear dirty clothes, the clean clothes he used to actually go to night school, he would have to change the clean clothes, wear the dirty clothes, the work clothes, so that he won't be seen by community members in those clean clothes. Why? Because that meant that he was going for that, because him going, pursuing an education, going to night school, meant that he was deviating from his main mission. Because his main mission then was working, making money, and sending money to his family. So we have come a long way. From a community that shunned education, to a community that discouraged education, to now a community that celebrates education, and that was demonstrated last night. And today we solidify this commitment by gathering here as a special and unique group. A group that woke up this morning and willingly came. No one had to drag you to come here, right? We admit that some people had to be dragged to come to yesterday's program. And so this is, we say this is a special group. We say we appreciate your presence here. We say we appreciate your engagement and your involvement and your support. And you hear my tone, and you know it carries 30% of my communication, and you know it's genuine, and you know it's sincere. And by me reaffirming that, I think I just added 7%. Right? So it's 37%. We arrived Friday night. We had actually dinner at Access. We had the pleasure of spending some time as a group. We were hosted by our sister Anissa and Access organization. Both we appreciate and recognize the value of their contribution and the relationship we have with them, both as an organization and both as an individual personified in Anissa Sahuba. When we arrived, Dr. Rashid, we had an opportunity to introduce ourselves and say why we were engaged in the AAYSP. And Dr. Rashid mentioned that he was on a high, right? But it was a good high. It wasn't God high. It wasn't a God associated high. So, and honestly, I don't think we've come down from that high. Because I was talking to Dr. Nasser yesterday, and I said, I'm still here. I don't think we've come down. We had an excellent and awesome program yesterday. It was a lengthy program, it was an intense program, but it was one of the most interesting, packed, informative programs that we've designed so far. In this ongoing, developing, evolving experiment or project called the AAYSP. So yesterday we gathered under a banner called AAYSP. But the AAYSP is actually just a symbol. In this case, I hope you're appreciating the new logo. We see the acronyms, we see the names, but there is really a greater banner that we're under. And it's the banner of the Yemeni American community. Those are the people who gathered yesterday, and you are the people who are here. We're not here as the AAYSP. We are here as the Yemeni American community, as people who are dedicated, as people who are passionate and compassionate about the community and want to make change. We had an awesome program yesterday. We delved into so many different topics. We tackled so many issues. We are looking at issues differently. We are looking at issues using a scientific approach. Although our methods are not genuinely scientific yet, but we are trying to approach our issues looking at data, looking at empirical information. So we could together work and become more strategic in our planning and in our approach and in our attempt to figure out solutions. We talked about the state of Yemeni American education. And we mentioned that 44%, or about 50% of our kids are not achieving grade level standards. And of those even 50% who are achieving, that most of them are borderline achievers. In the field of education, we call them slippables. We could lose them. We talked about students in the 8th grade and what the research data says in terms of that basically those students who are not feeling grade level standards in the 8th grade are prone to drop out in a community that does not support pursuing education. So, and the intention is not to sound alarmist. The intention is not to create a sense of panic, but to raise a sense of concern and a motivation to act. We talked about issues that people seldom mention or want to discuss, like the cultural issues